Helen Zille, welcome to Pap Politics here on 5FM. It's such an honor to have you.
What a great name, Pap Politics.
Yeah, I had to be quite creative with that one, but it works. Okay, so I thought we should start with a bit of an icebreaker, okay? I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if it's going to work. So, I mean, you want to be the mayor of Joburg. I feel like you should know who you'll be governing for, you'll be governing, you know? So I thought, let me look up some of the most famous faces in Joburg, or people who are known to live in Joburg, or like have ties to Joburg. Some of these people might even be voting for you. You never know, okay? And you have to tell me if you know their names. I'm going to start with somebody.
I don't know anything about films or TV, so let me just warn you.
Ooh, okay. It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
Are you sure? I feel like give this one a try. Okay, this one. Do you know this? Who do you know who this is? So she's got a song.
Tyler.
Oh, there you go. Okay, there you go.
That I know. I mean, Tyler, everybody knows.
Right. Okay. That is true. And then, how about this guy over here?
Black Coffee.
No, different genre. Cass. He says the name with like a ghost. There's a ghost.
Casper.
There you go.
Casper Neovest.
There you go. Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
No, you see, I do know.
See, there you go. You got two more.
Casper Neovest. Do I get half a point for that?
You know, I'll give you a full point. I'll give you a full point.
God.
I'm quite generous.
I hope the IEC does this to me after the vote.
Okay, then, how about this one? I mean, you know this guy, obviously, right?
That looks like Trevor Noah.
Okay, I was worried for a second.
No, but it's a very different kind of Trevor Noah.
Yeah, now he's got the hair.
I mean, I had to look very carefully to get Trevor Noah out of
to be fair, it's from like 15 years ago.
Well,
so.
I can see that, yeah.
Again, this one, I mean, you know.
Charlize Theron.
There you go. Okay.
Charlize Theron.
Or Thron, depending
Thron or Theron.
Yeah, depending on who you ask. I feel like a welcome back is in order. You've just moved back to Joburg,
yes,
right?
I live in Joburg now.
And now, I mean, I imagine, obviously, before the big move, how many months has it been?
I've been here permanently since about the middle of January.
Okay, almost just under a month. But
Yes.
I imagine, even before you started your run for mayor, before that was even announced, you're originally from Joburg, born and raised, so you're familiar with Joburg, right? And you know about, you've got a sense of what it's about, what its potential is, what the state of Joburg is now. But I imagine, having spent now, well, as I said, just under a month, spending more time here, your experience of it, your lived experience of it as a resident has been kind of amplified or enhanced, maybe even reaffirmed your decision to run?
Oh, definitely.
Oh.
I love Joburg's people. Everyone's so warm and friendly and open. I've been received with that kind of warmth everywhere I've gone. People have phoned me and contacted me and asked me to go places, which I appreciate. And I'm very happy here. I grew up here. You know, this is my hood.
Is that why you decided you are going to run for mayor?
That and other reasons, yes.
Care to elaborate?
Well, you know, the big next frontier, if we want to save South Africa, is Gauteng. And it's the metros in Gauteng, because the metros are where the economy is. And we've got to get this economy pumping, otherwise we won't get jobs for the people. And unemployment is our number one problem in South Africa. And so we had better get this economy pumping, and you never get the economy working without good local government. That is the central pillar of a functional economy, because local government makes things work. Water, electricity, sewerage, roads, refuse removal. Without all those things working smoothly, no one's ever going to invest in a city or a country.
So is that what Helen Zille's city of Joburg looks like? You know, a thriving economy, water, service delivery?
Well, not after 100 days, I can promise you that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this city's very broken, and this city has been neglected in terms of maintenance for 30 years. And the operational budget is absurdly larger than the capital budget, which is a very big problem for a city. I mean, it should be bigger, but not that much bigger. And there's a huge amount of work to do in Joburg. So I hope that we can get Joburg on the road to recovery, but full recovery will take a very long time.
But what is that one focus area you think warrants your full attention more than anything? The first thing that you're going to focus on should you be elected, for example,
Well, the thing you always focus on first is the budget.
Okay.
And so one of the very first things I will do is look at possibly an adjustment budget to make sure that at least we can get some money going into the most critical places. And if you have to look at a service delivery component that has to take priority, it has to be water. Because people can survive without electricity. It's very uncomfortable, but you can, but not without water. We currently, as we sit here now, have got schools closed down. We've got factories without water for 14 weeks, and that means they have to retrench workers, because obviously you can't have workers come into work if you can't flush a toilet, you see. So all of these things really create havoc and increase unemployment and keep children out of education. So it is very, very critical indeed that we focus on water.
I mean, you've been at it since for the past couple of months now, right? And
Yes.
But what are people telling you about what their concerns are around the city? I saw a story just yesterday. There was the explosion, and people had all these concerns. I imagine you hear a lot. You hear a lot from people.
Yes, I do. And when things go wrong, people contact me and ask me to come out. And I have to say to them, look, I've got no power to fix things now, but I can come along. I can look, listen and learn. That's what I can do now. And that's very good exposure for me, because there's nothing like doing a lot of research, getting to a lot of places, listening to a lot of people, learning a lot about the city, so that when I come in, if I come in, obviously, if people vote in the way that I think would assist Joburg's recovery, if they do, I've got a depth of knowledge that I'm going to need.
But do you think that when people call you, it kind of galvanizes the powers that be, into action? Because, if Helen Zille is going to deal with it, it means, whoever failed.
Well, I do get that kind of feedback sometimes. So I was at something yesterday that had gone horribly wrong. And I was on television, and about 20 minutes after that, the MMC rocked up there. And I was told that was because he had seen me on television. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I was told. And then, for example, yesterday evening, I was at an appointment, and the person who came out to meet me said, "Oh, thanks for coming, because for the first time in months, they fixed the escalator."
Wow.
I don't know if all of that is true, but that's what people tell me.
Yeah, but I can't help but think, you were the Western Cape leader in the DA for a very long time.
I was the federal leader.
So federal leader, yes. Yeah. You were the premier. I would imagine, surely there are certain parts of your experience there that you would draw from should you take office. What do you think that would be?
Well, hugely. I mean, your experience accumulates over a whole lifetime.
Sure.
And that's why I say, there are stages in life for a reason. And if you accumulate your experience, learn from your mistakes, analyze where things go wrong and how you can prevent that next time, how to make better judgments and all of that, that's all cumulative experience. And it informs what you do later on, which I suppose we call wisdom of old age.
Yeah.
So, yes, look, I've taken over 2 governments from the ANC. One was in Cape Town and the other was in the Western Cape. So I took over from Noma Indiam Feketo in Cape Town, and then from Ibrahim Rasool in the province. So I have a sense of what the ANC gets up to when they're in government. Obviously, things were a whole lot better in Cape Town than they are in Joburg, because I think the ANC had only been in office for about 5 years before we took over. And, in 5 years, you can't really strip the city of its professional managers. And you can't destroy an ethos yet of professional service delivery. So that was still there, and it was still strong, and it's what we rebuilt Cape Town on. So I was very grateful for that. And in the province, well, ditto, we took over when the ANC hadn't been in power for as long, not nearly as long. And it makes it much easier to turn a place around.
I think that was 2006.
In Cape Town, yes.
2006. That's 20 years. You can imagine a lot happens, right, in the political space. People start new political parties. Some just end up being dissolved. A lot happens. A lot has changed. And I imagine you take that with you, the kind of keeping abreast with the political environment, and that kind of influences how, going forward, maybe you negotiate when you get to the negotiating table.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you learn from experience. These last negotiations on the Government of National Unity, I learned an incredible amount about how the ANC negotiates and what you can believe and what you shouldn't believe, and what a signed document means to the ANC. I mean, these are all priceless bits of experience, because this is where you kind of get a culture shock. I've been raised to understand that if you sign a document, your word is your bond, and you have to absolutely live by what you've signed.
Sure.
Doesn't work like that everywhere, I can assure you.
We've been seeing that for the past year or two, I believe, right? But I have to wonder, with now, yes, you were in the Western Cape, it's been 20 years, you've seen a lot, as you rightly mentioned. Do you think, and I'm sure it's true, there are certain people who are probably uncomfortable with your decision to run?
Yes, of course. I mean, that's politics.
Yeah.
You can never, ever have everyone like you. You don't want everyone to like you. I mean, politicians are often defined by the people that they clash with.
That's true.
And that's very important. You have to have people that you clash with in politics.
But then what happens when, yes, we have the election, and eventually these are people that, I imagine you've had talks about having the talk, almost like a precursor to the actual talk, regardless of what happens. You might get an outright majority, you might not. Have you had things like that where there's this kind of tacit acknowledgement of that?
No, we don't like to negotiate in any serious way before an election.
Okay.
I mean, we obviously chat to our colleagues and we chat to our opponents all the time. That's what politics is. I mean, I am the Secretary General, the equivalent of Fikile Mbalula's position in the ANC's, my position in the DA. So obviously I've seen him in terms of his being the Secretary General of the ANC, and we're in a Government of National Unity together, and there are things we have to sort out. So obviously I see him in terms of that, and ditto many of the other parties. So, for example, we talk to each other a lot, all of us, across all kinds of barriers. That happens in politics. That's what it is about.
And it is cordial, right? People have this idea that it's an episode of Real Housewives. When you guys...
Now, that's what I've never seen Real Housewives, so I have no idea what it's like.
It's really good. You should watch.
Should I? Are there women fighting with each other all the time?
Yeah, it's the coolest thing ever.
No, it must be the most awful thing ever.
Give it a try. Good, yeah.
No. I'll steal well away from that. When people are fighting over politics, I'll watch. But housewives, I can't.
And I imagine, so we were talking about this morning. We're doing a story. You can't talk about the city of Joburg without talking about crime, corruption. We were doing a story about DJ Warris, who is such a tragic story. We learned that the guy was paid about 7,000 rands. And the thing is, obviously, as mayor, this would be within your purview. He's an example of what happens, right? When you're fighting the good fight, right? You are taking on this fight against the bad guys, the underworld. But he's an example of what happens to you when you do that. But how do you as the city take something like that on, something that's seemingly so immersed in the city?
Well, yes, as I say, that corruption is syndicated in the city of Joburg, which means you don't get a few corrupt people amongst a whole lot of honest ones. It works the other way around. You get a few honest people amongst a sea of corruption. And it makes life very difficult for the honest guys, because if they put their head above the parapet and say, look, I don't think we should be doing this, they immediately get suspended or marginalized or pushed out. And if they start blowing the whistle, they could easily be assassinated, as we've seen more than once. Yeah. And that is the big, big risk of when the system becomes riddled with corruption. I often say that corruption is the system. And the book that really brought that to my attention very powerfully was The Shadow State by Jeff Wicks on the murder of Babita Deokaran and what led to it. And there you saw how deep and how wide that corrupt network was around the Tembisa Hospital tenders, and they went right up, allegedly, to the head of Babita's department. So when she did what she should have done, which is gone to her departmental head and said, look, I'm uncovering what I think is serious corruption at Tembisa Hospital, within a week she was dead. And the deduction that was made is that the person who must have reported it back through the system to tip off the would-be assassins was the person to whom she reported.
And it's not lost on you, surely, that, as the DA, you've often taken this stance against corruption. Given what's happened now, again, with Babita, she's a classic example. We've seen what's happened in Igorlene as well. A few
yes,
stories.
Moerane.
Yes.
That was terrible.
Another horrific story. There's a lot riding on this. So there would be this expectation, probably on you more than any of the other political parties, that you would deal with this head on and probably effectively.
Well, I'll certainly try, which makes it probably better than you've got a 75-year-old in that job than a younger person, because I've had my life and I'm not really scared of taking these guys on.
Yeah.
But the DA is worried, and I've got more protection than I've ever had. And sometimes I find it very stifling. I kind of feel that I can't do the things that I always used to do and go out and see people and jump out the car when I feel like it and run around the block and confront people when I see them littering and doing all the things that I used to do instinctively. Now I can't do that anymore. So I feel a bit constrained, but the protectors are wonderful people and they look after me very, very well. But that's a consequence of the DA worrying that the same could happen to me as happened to DJ Waras or Babita Deokaran or other people.
It's interesting you say that, because I read Michelle Obama said, she was speaking about how life after office, how your new normal isn't your new normal anymore, because there are a lot of the mundane things that, us as the John Q public can do, like open a window. She said she couldn't open a window, but now obviously you're entering into this new kind of realm and you kind of have to. And for you, I mean, it's nothing new. You've been doing this for a very long time, but you'll get used to it, surely.
Well, it's hard to get used to it. I have a baby lock on the car door, so I can't get out. And then...
Really?
Yeah. And then my window won't roll down because they've disabled that as well, because I'm too well known. If I see somebody throwing a cigarette out of the car, I will stop and jump out and go and confront that person, for example. Or if somebody throws... I mean, the other day we were driving along and someone had finished a huge cold drink about this big and just tossed it into the bush.
Wait, so this is not a metaphor. This is actually... You can't roll down a window or open a door.
No. It's not a metaphor of Michelle Obama.
Okay,
So that's exactly real. You can't do that.
Wow. Okay.
When a professional protector gets onto you, you'll be amazed how your life shrinks.
Wow.
Things that you used to do, go for a walk, go to the shops, go and see a mate, do this, do that.
And so that means, well, as a mayor, would you be kind of hands-on or kind of strategic? Because there is that, there's a difference, right? There's somebody who's a bit more day-to-day running of the office and the affairs, and somebody more maybe strategic, right? Because you've got the decision makers.
Right. Well, my way of doing this is to do the following. I've always got somebody with a legal background in my office, and their job is to read everything that comes into my office and to look through everything and to make sure that they understand the politics and that they flag anything that needs to come to my attention. And that you have a session with that person every single day and you make absolutely sure that you are paying attention to everything that's been flagged for you. So that there isn't a document that comes into your office that isn't being properly read and, where necessary, responded to. But it doesn't necessarily have to be you. You have to get people that you really trust, really understand the politics, really understand local government legislation, really understand the council's processes, and then they can filter it through their brain, explain the import to you, and then get you to do what you have to do on the things that you have to do it on, and then delegate, or you delegate on their advice where other people are better positioned to deal with the issue. So that's what you do. That's my experience. Worked very well in the Premier's office, worked very well in the Mayor's office. So it's a model that I like. And then it gives me also a lot of time, instead of being stuck behind a desk, reading piles of documents that you have to do. I can get out. I can be the eyes and ears on the ground. I can be looking. Helen Zille always used to say, the first rule of politics, go and see for yourself. And in the DA, we live by that, and we have never stopped doing that. So that's what I intend to do as the mayor, because what you hear is often not what is true. So I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but officials want the mayor to hear what she wants to hear. And I've so often heard...
Yes, people.
Huh?
Yes, people.
Yeah, well, people who want you to think that everything's functioning well.
Okay.
So you'll say, well, for example, how many after-school programs are running? And you'll get a whole list of how many, and you think, oh, that's wonderful. And then you quickly go out and see for yourself, and you find it ain't so. So you've always got to go and look for yourself, because things can look very good on paper that aren't good at all in real life.
Okay, so people who know what they're doing, good at their job, people you trust, right, who can pretty much implement whatever it is that you're, on your directives. Is that what you think maybe some metros are getting wrong, or maybe it's just being poorly implemented? Because it does sound like a foolproof kind of, recipe, right? It could work.
Well, first of all, it's the voters' mandate. Okay. What have the voters said? Now, if the voters give us more of the same in Joburg, with the ANC as the larger party or the largest party, and all those tiny little parties going under the ANC's wing for protection and patronage and positions and perks, all of those things, well, then you'll get more of the same. You'll get a large, totally unwieldy, unworkable coalition, very fragile. And you can't take any decisions in something like that, because everything you want to do, somebody else wants to bring you down, and you're paralyzed. So there are only two parties that can be the biggest party in Joburg in this election. Only two. One is ourselves, the DA, and the other is the ANC. And being the biggest party matters a lot, because you get first bite if you don't get an overall majority, which is, of course, always the best to get. But if you don't happen to get that and you have to put together a coalition, you get first bite at trying to do that, and you're in a very strong position. If people keep on splintering their vote across all sorts of tiny parties, then the likelihood exists that the ANC will be the biggest party again, and we'll get more of the same. So voters in Joburg have to work this out. Do they want more of the same? Or do they want to use this last chance that Joburg has to put her on the road to recovery? That's the choice that voters face.
I mean, having negotiated with other parties, informing the GNU, and we're not talking about the GNU, but there's certain things you probably learned that will serve you very well, right, in terms of negotiating with certain political parties, certain people's, maybe tactics, how they go about negotiating. That is something that I assume will serve you very well, should whatever happen. We don't know what the outcome of the election is going to be again, but I imagine.
Well, yes. I mean, I know a lot about how the ANC works now.
Better now, especially.
Yeah, well, the ANC loves to run down the clock. So they will get a very tight deadline. For example, we had to vote for the president on the 14th of June, 2024. That was a tight deadline. And on the night of the 13th of June, they will put an entirely new document, even though you've been working on another one for 2 weeks. They will put an entirely new document in front of you and then pressure you against the wall, because the clock is running down to the deadline when the Chief Justice is going to then convene Parliament and call for nominations of the President. And they try and force you into a corner with minutes to spare, and often past the deadline, to force you to agree to things they want. And that's when you have to stand absolutely firm and say no. But I know that tactic now, and it's never going to catch us again.
And we've often heard, coalitions are the future, right? It's happening now. But now we've got the city of Joburg. I wanted to ask you this specifically because the city of Joburg now, they've approved the creation of a deputy mayor,
yes.
right? And the DA said they're not happy with it.
Yeah.
But I imagine for somebody in your position, right, you've got a lot riding on this more than anybody because you're the one running for mayor in the DA. You could use that as a possible bargaining chip, right? Surely.
Well, you can use a lot of things as a bargaining chip, I suppose. It may be useful in a coalition. It's bizarre for a city that's just about bankrupt to be spending 8 million rand on the office of a deputy mayor. But this is the problem. With all these small parties, they want positions and perks. And then you spend a lot of money on that and not a lot of money, or not nearly enough money, fixing the water system, fixing the road system, fixing the electricity grid, all of those things, and making sure that, for example, the infrastructure doesn't blow up. So that's where you need to be spending your money on. But I suppose perks and positions and stuff are what people like. And sometimes they're necessary in the process of negotiation. That's why we ideally want a clear majority. It would help enormously. If a deputy mayor becomes a second centre of power, it can be quite complex sometimes. But sometimes those positions can be used as bargaining chips, no question. But there are lots of other things that can. I have no doubt that the ANC will try and trade off one city against another and say to us, well, you have this one and we'll have that one and that sort of thing. But we need to be ready, and that's why we've got to be big. And the bigger we are, the stronger our negotiating hand is.
As I say, you need to be ready. And there's no doubt you are quite the formidable candidate. You've been doing this for a very long time. But, when we were talking about how the metros kind of function, particularly, you look at what's happening in Tshwane, for example. You look at what's happening not in the city, but in KwaZulu-Natal. They almost wanted, Tamintuli removed. Do you think you're able to kind of avoid a situation where you are, as you say, put in a corner, but not compromising what you as the DA, as the deployee of the DA have been sent to do, without compromising on party values, for lack of a better term?
Well, I can just recommend to your listeners to read the book by Micah Reddy and Paulie van Wyk called Malema, Money, Power, Patronage. That's the subtitle, Money, Power, Patronage. Very, very interesting book, especially chapters 22 to 25, because it shows you that when the DA has had to rely on the EFF to get into the mayoralty and stay in the mayoralty, exactly how much the EFF demands their pound of flesh in return for their support, and the extent to which they entrench themselves in the bureaucracy, especially in the supply chain management system and the procurement process, and they dictate who gets appointed right up to the city manager. Now, I'm not going to play that game. There's going to be no extortion with me. And frankly, if the voters don't want good, clean government, they must just carry on the patterns of the past, because it makes it very, very difficult to govern if you are dependent on your arch opponent to stay in power. You can't do that.
Who do you think among all those, we know about Herman Mashaba possibly running for Joburg Mayor, we saw that. Loyiso Masuku could from the ANC. Who do you think could really be a challenge for you? Somebody who's maybe not as formidable or as formidable that you think could be quite competitive?
Well, I don't want to comment on the candidates of other parties.
Okay.
They must choose who they must choose, and they must get into the field, and they must try and tell the truth, because if they don't tell the truth, I'm going to be very, very tough in my responses. I don't mind tough opponents. I don't.
Yeah.
But I do mind disinformation.
Quite the race, though, isn't it?
Quite the race. It is the race in this election, the race for the metros. So Tshwane is looking good for us. Ekurhuleni, nice. You know, I don't talk about our polling, but the metros are our next frontier.
So this could be, because you've always used, particularly you've always referred to Cape Town as almost a shining example of DA governance, what the DA can do. Do you think that could be replicated, though, in Johannesburg?
It's going to take time.
Yeah.
It's going to take time. And then I'm glad you haven't said, well, what about Khayelitsha? Because a million people who have never been to Khayelitsha trot that line out as if it's the kind of trump card of saying, well, there's a tale of two cities. I'd like you to go and see how much brilliant infrastructure the DA-led city of Cape Town has invested in Khayelitsha. It's extraordinary. I've just seen today the fabulous, huge swimming pool, the public swimming pool that's there, with the mayor in it, bobbing around in a wetsuit. Don't know why he needs a wetsuit, but I won't be bobbing around in any water with any kind of suit, let alone a bikini.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll probably put on a wetsuit. I could let my body be seen with a wetsuit. That's a stretch, but I could. But you see, the thing is, there's huge amounts of literally world-class infrastructure there. There's a hospital, state-of-the-art hospital in Khayelitsha that we built, etc., etc., etc. What the government has to do is working in Khayelitsha. The government can't guarantee that very poor people, often without anything and without education or anything, coming in from the deep rural areas, will suddenly be middle class. No government can guarantee that. What we can do, and what we do, is guarantee that stuff works so that people with capital and skills who can invest in these areas and invest in Cape Town generally or any other municipality where the DA governs, they have confidence in the future, they invest and they create jobs. So let me give you an example. In Cape Town in this last tourist season, we had 11 million visitors to the city of Cape Town. 11 million visitors. Now, do you know how many jobs that creates? And that is what we're looking for. That is our yardstick. Jobs, jobs, jobs.
When the G20 happened, I remember everybody was talking about how, and we were noticing it too, by the way, driving, past the CBD, it was like, guests are coming over and your mom is bringing out the nice china and she's dusting the bookshelf and everything. And there was this expectation that, okay, this is a chance to, yes, we're fixing Johannesburg, but you can also keep it that way. I wonder, what would you have done in that situation? Because we actually even had a bet on our show. How much of what we're seeing here, all this beauty, all this these modifications being made in Johannesburg, how much of it is actually going to stay intact, and how long after the G20? And we pretty much all lost that bet.
So what would I have done?
Yeah.
I would have said, take the G20 to Cape Town.
Really? But I mean,
if you want to put on a show for visitors.
Sure.
I mean, that if that's what the president wanted to do, I mean, he himself has said there's one city that works in South Africa, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He himself has said to the whole of South Africa, the ANC must learn from the DA. Go and look where the DA governs and try to emulate what they do. So if they're saying that, why doesn't he, when he wants to show off to foreign visitors, take them to the places that he says are best governed? I mean, surely that's what you do.
Did you feel vindicated, by the way, when he said that? Because I remember we were doing the story and I think my colleagues hadn't heard it, but I played the soundbite and he said that. And my colleague said, okay, why the hell would he say that? Like, it doesn't help you in any way. On his part, did you ever think, okay, why would he say that too?
Well, I think he said that because he was trying to tell his councillors, we can't rely on people's votes because they voted for us in the past. More and more, the electorate is maturing, and the electorate votes for service delivery more and more because they know that the quality of your government profoundly impacts your life. And because people know that, don't sit back and say, because there are a majority of blacks in this municipality, will automatically get elected. The president was saying to them, Doesn't matter if they're majority of black people, white people, whatever. People are more and more making a judgment on what is best for service delivery. And the DA's municipalities are best for service delivery. So best you go and look to see what they are doing. Now, sometimes when you're speaking in the family, as it were, and he was speaking in his ANC family, you say things dead straight to them that you probably wouldn't say off a platform at a rally. But that speech was being monitored by the media, and so that came out. And it was a moment of honesty. I respected the president for saying that. Of course, he got into huge trouble from his own party, as one is suspected that he would. And there was no coming back from that. I mean, you couldn't unhear those words. Yeah. And then afterwards he tried to say, oh, well, they get clean audits, but you can't eat clean audits or something. Well, what he'd really said very clearly on the first iteration was that if you look after money properly and spend money on service delivery and not corruption, the result is a functional city. That's what he said. And that's why clean audits are important.
When you announced that you would be running, I remember seeing there was op-eds upon op-eds about, some reckoned maybe it wouldn't be such a good idea, but some said, she could do a pretty decent job. I mean, like analysts, like I remember Prince Mashele said something like that.
Yes, I remember Prince.
In your opinion, why do you think people would be leaning towards you? Even though, I mean, as we know it, the electorate does tend to change every now and then with the political climate.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Yes, indeed. I have to agree with the president that the South African electorate is maturing. I think initially after liberation and for many years thereafter, it's completely understandable that people vote on symbolism and history and loyalty. But that's changing now. Because people say, listen, my children can't go to school because there's no water in the school. Who's got the track record, the experience, and the depth of competence in their party to be able to be best placed to fix this? That's the question that people are asking themselves. And today people are looking at parties' manifestos and they say, what does this party say they will do if they come into office? And they are comparing, which is a good thing. And they're asking questions, which is a good thing. And so you find this in all newly emerging democracies, and South Africa is a newly emerging democracy. Initially, it's symbolism, it's celebration, it's identity, it's gratefulness, it's all of those things that will inform a vote. And as that settled down all over Africa that I've been to, Ghana, Zambia, everywhere, not in Zimbabwe, unfortunately, because I think the system is now so rigged that people can't vote their government out of office. It's a tragedy, and that's why there are approximately 3 million Zimbabweans in South Africa today. It's a tragedy that government can't change through the ballot box. But in every other country that I've been to, almost, I haven't been to a lot of countries, but I've been to quite a few, you find that exact pattern. After a certain amount of time, usually 20 to 30 years, the electorate changes to ask the core questions behind voting.
I remember a couple of years ago, this was actually 6-7 years ago, it was when, and I don't mean to take you back, I really don't, but it was when Mmusi Maimane was resigning, and I think you were standing right next to him, and I thought, okay, yeah, we'll probably never see Helen Zille enter public office. She'll probably stay within the ranks of the DA. And now we're here, and it's too early to tell, again, what the outcome of this election will be. But do you see yourself after this? Is this the final curtain call for public office? Or is it too soon to tell? I know it's too soon to tell, but a little bit of foresight from your end.
Genuinely with me, it's too soon to tell. Really? I've got as much energy as I had when I was 25, more actually. I wasn't well when I was 25, but I've got more energy now. And my superpower is perseverance. I can keep on going and keep on going and keep on going as long as it takes. And I don't mind how much I get bashed. I've been bashed a lot, even by my own party a lot. Doesn't matter. I keep on going because I'm invested in these values. And because I think that the DA's values are really the only solid foundation for a prosperous South Africa. That's why I keep on going, because I love this country.
Wow. It's a very long time, though. It feels like when you say you never know, that feels like forever. It really does.
Well, look, my aunt died, my mother's sister died at 104. She was my godmother. When I went to see her for her 100th birthday, and she lived in Buenos Aires in South America.
Argentina?
Yeah, Argentina. I flew over for her birthday because she's my godmother. And she was still reading 3 newspapers a day, English, Spanish, and German. She was still discussing the events of the day absolutely lucidly. She'd go for 2 walks a day, challenge me on a whole lot of things. And I thought, whoa, I hope I've inherited your marbles, as it were. I hope my synapses stay connected like yours have. And then my other aunt was still running her practice at 96, as I recall. She died at 99. And my mom only died at 96 because she had smoked her whole life non-stop since she was 18. And when she was 95, she got emphysema, which is not bad going for someone who smoked so much for so long.
Yeah.
So the thing is, if I have, and I don't know whether I have, but if I have inherited the female genes from my mother's side, it really is too soon to tell. I'm currently on their track record in my midlife crisis.
So, okay, so if we happen to have you here in I don't know how many years, you'll be running for, let's just put a blank on that. It could be anything. Could be anything.
Well, whatever. I do where I think I can add the best value and do the best to ensure South Africa's long-term prosperity. And at the moment, it's in the metros.
And I imagine kind of the younger flock of DA members, leaders, kind of come to you for, advice. Does that happen? That does happen.
Yes, of course it does happen. But I also go to them for advice.
Yeah.
I mean, if they say to me, you've got to do a TikTok live, I say, what the hell is that? So I go to them for advice, for example.
And you are getting it right, by the way. You're getting the hang of it. I've seen it.
No, but I've got very good colleagues.
Well, okay. No, that's perfect. Well, we'll see. We'll never know. As I said, we never know. We might be back here talking about something completely unrelated. Or maybe you might be the new Mayor of Joburg. We don't know. But Helen Zille, thank you so much for coming. We really, really appreciate it. I thought the interview was never going to happen because you're so busy. Like you're on my algorithm on TikTok.
That's great. No, I've got a very good team, and Janine will always slot you in.
Oh, thank you. Well, good luck. You've got your work cut out for you. I feel like your fellow candidates are not going to be resting on their laurels with this election.
Well, we want a good fight. We want a good, clean fight, let's put it that way. I mean, I'm not going to invent anything about my opponents and fight dirty. I'll fight on the issues. I'll make the issues the issue. That's what we have to do. Make Joburg's condition the issue of this election.